Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is once again that time of week. You are listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. This is a weekly news political talk show where I, the Hoodrat Strategist, call out the establishment on its BS, talk about those news stories that fly under the radar, and the stuff that they don't want you to know about, as well as talk about local politics and activism. Of course, we start every show by saying the following thoughts, views, and opinions are not necessarily those of 89.1 FM WIDR Kalamazoo or Western Michigan University, no matter how dope or insightful they may be. So I want to apologize. I was not here last week, but that was for very good reason. It's something I wanted to talk about, not too much in depth, but it is very important, particularly some of the cultural issues that have been coming up here in our own political culture within the local Democratic Party, and some kind of a culture of unchecked sexism and misogyny. So I want to start by saying, please, trigger warning. I'm not going to talk about anything I'm not going to go into any particularly graphic detail, but I am going to mention some topics that some of my listeners might find uncomfortable. So I'm just want to give you that heads up. So the situation last week, I had to go out to the other side of the state to basically Detroit. It was the Eaton County Democratic Party meeting. And what had happened is there's a young woman I know, very good friends with, a comrade if there ever was one. And she was assaulted by a member of that chapter. And initially what happened, she wanted to come and speak out about this. Now, she's not affiliated with the Democratic Party herself, but she is somebody who has come to their meetings and has been very helpful in helping them organize and lending her expertise. And when she said she wanted to come and speak out about this, they initially told her not to come to the meeting. Of course, what happened after that, it's like, she went public with this and said, they are, denying me access to this meeting. Granted, at the same time, they also denied membership to her attacker, which, by the way, is legal. It's in the bylaws of the Democratic Party that you can basically revoke access and membership on those grounds. So what ended up happening was due to public pressure and thanks to kind of the activist network that my friend is plugged into, she was able to both organize people to attend their meeting of the Young Democrats, which is the member of this fellow, the Sanjay fellow, was a part of. And she also had a lot of friends who were part of the Young Democrats of Michigan. Myself and the vice chair actually went out from Kalamazoo. My friend Jessica Martin is the vice chair of the Young Democrats of Michigan, and basically went down there to lay down the law. What really struck me beyond the fact that this is happened to a very, very dear friend of mine in the movement was the culture of complicity that we find ourselves trapped in, and that we do not critique. We've got this sort of cognitive dissonance. And, this isn't just in the political culture. This is also in the culture of the city. The idea that, it's easy to speak out against patriarchy and rape culture if it doesn't involve you or people that you know. But once there's some direct tension, once there's some actual drama that you got to deal with firsthand, people become a lot less outspoken, a lot more sheepish, as it will. And what we saw with these folks out here who, as I said, they did, to their credit, they did reverse their decision and allow her to come speak, was they erred on the side of less tension, less drama. They didn't want this sort of disruption in their meeting. But if you're going to be part of a political party or a party, this chapter of the Young Democrats, which is supposed to be on the so-called left, it's supposed to stand for women's issues, can stand up there and indict Donald Trump for his errant sexism and indict people like Mike Pence for his anti-woman policies and rhetoric. But when it happens in their own backyard, we'll step down. We'll basically shame the victim to the point where they have to come and speak out, which is not a pleasant experience. Anyone who's been through trauma like that can tell you it is not fun. It is not it is a lot of times not helpful for them to relive those things. Now, to a certain extent, dealing with that trauma, that is important. But typically not mere days or a week or 2 weeks after it happens should you have to go up in front of a crowd of people and explain to them why it's bad to silence them. And it was rather ridiculous that a bunch of us had to come from all over the state to deal with that. But I'm not saying this to just talk down to this one chapter of the Young Democrats out on the east side of the state, although they've got some weird thing going on where they say they're Young Democrats, but not officially affiliated with the actual Young Democrats of Michigan, which the official Young Democrats of Michigan might have something to say about that. But I digress. It was pretty ridiculous that we had to come out to that side of the state, and it reminds me of a lot of the complicity that we have here in Kalamazoo, in our own political and activist circles. There was a fellow, I won't out him on air, but we've talked on the show about the allegations against Bill Parfait, and maybe it's Parfait. He's one of the main donors to the Kalamazoo Excellence Foundation, as has been covered by MLive, commented on by a couple of our commissioners and me many times. He's got a really disgusting past. He's got some really gross allegations out there against him. Sexual assault, gaslighting. He basically, and this was proven, he had a couple of children with this poor woman who was systematically abused for years, a member of his company at MPI Research. And in response, this fellow who coordinates a committee in our local Democratic Party said, well, Bill is a friend of mine, and who he sleeps with is really no one's business. And that's part of this systemic culture, because who someone sleeps with is no one's business. Who they assault, that's people's business, especially when you're taking such a public role in steering the future of our city with your money. Or, I've heard, there was recently a situation where, there's a couple of female candidates running for Congress. Very interesting development for those of you who have been following local Democratic politics. We're actually going to be going into a primary, which has never happened before. Traditionally, with the local Democratic Party, they kind of coalesce around a candidate. Sometimes they even have to kind of beg somebody to run. There's 6 different people who have thrown their hats in the ring. I hope to have all of them on my show in the next couple of weeks. But there was some very condescending language used towards some of the female candidates. I remember one instance, one of the higher ups in the Democratic Party was concerned that it was my friend Eponine would get her feelings hurt if she lost, in a way that, it's not really a question that's posed to a man, is it? So, listeners, this is something that's been very much in the front of my mind. And, just over this last week, dealing with this institutional misogyny and complicity towards people who engage in sexual assault. It is unacceptable, and we need to expect better. We need to demand better of people, not only in our political circles, but in our community as well. Because this is something that runs through the neighborhoods that we live in, whether it's Edison, the Vine, the North Side. We cannot be a culture that is complicit in this kind of behavior. And, Kalamazoo's a pretty left-leaning town, and even, most of the conservatives around here are, kind of libertarian-ish. So, where do we have a leg to stand on in criticizing the right wing's war on women if we cannot stand up against that kind of sexism and misogyny and abuse in our own backyard? What leg do we have to stand on? Where are we with our pink hats if we will not, defend our sisters when they come under fire like this? So yeah, that's why I missed my show last week. And I really, whatever faculty or position you are in, and whether it be just your neighborhood, your scene, your culture, your political party, stand up. Don't put up with this crap. We need to evolve and move past this errant misogyny. So there's a lot of other stuff that happened in the gap while I was gone. I really regret I didn't get a chance to cover too in depth the aftermath of the March Against Monsanto. I also went to Capitol Day in Lansing, a yearly event put on by Michigan United, where they square in on a couple of very important issues and do demonstrate around them. So let's talk a little bit about the March Against Monsanto. It was as somebody, one of the organizers, be transparent about it. I'll say we had a lot of things kind of ruck against us. Location change, the weather did not cooperate. There's a pretty rad video of me dropping those truth bombs out in the rain. It looks pretty rad. Not to sound conceited, but I'm like, yeah, this is good metrics up there. And we had a couple of different speakers. Jessica Martin, who she is the one who organizes the March Against Monsanto every year. She spoke very eloquently about how Monsanto really uses a lot of the rural communities around here and spits them back out. The last episode that we had recorded, we spent about an hour talking about that. My past episodes are on YouTube, so if you want to hear her speak to that more in depth, please look that up. My friend Eponine spoke out towards the science. Eponine Garrett, who's one of the candidates running for the Democratic primary for Congress. She's also a scientist, and she spoke a lot towards there's kind of this ideological division on the left, and a lot of people try to pose it as like, oh, people who are against Monsanto are somehow against science, or people who are against GMOs are against science. And she did a very excellent job in really explaining why it's not anti-science, it's that Monsanto practices a lot of bad science. Which is, where I stand on it myself. Like, I don't have a blanket distrust of GMOs, but I do distrust, international food conglomerates who have a monopoly on certain GMOs and have a history of sloppy human rights abuses and basically using communities like guinea pigs. So, and then we also had our dear friend Kris Mbah on, former mayoral candidate here in town. He spoke out about local cronyism, and also spoke some very important truths about how Monsanto affects communities of color, and how, frankly, white environmentalists do not do enough to reach out to that constituency. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about the Line 5 resolution. And while I've had some issues with County Commissioner Stephanie Moore before, she did make a really good point that, the white environmentalists and white activists really don't do enough to build those bridges. And as many of us know, the poor communities of color are at the forefront of being affected by pollution and climate change. And actually, there's a story I'm going to be talking about related to Capitol Day that speaks to that exactly. So I'm going to play this clip. This is Kris Mbah's speech from the March Against Monsanto, which was on May 20th.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kris Mbah. I'm a community activist, an entrepreneur, a father, a husband, and I am here with you to stand against Monsanto. Raise your hands if you vote, or have ever voted. Now keep your hands raised if you check the campaign finance reports of each candidate that you endorse with your vote. There are only 2 people with their hands up.
Can you repeat that a little bit louder? I can't hear you.
Check, keep your hands raised if you check the finance reports of every candidate that runs an election that you endorse with your vote. And there are only 2 people with their hands still raised. That is the problem here. How are we supposed to hold politicians accountable after we elect them when we don't hold them accountable prior to their elections? We don't know where their money is coming from. Only their issues and their values. So it says we believe their word more than where their words are coming from. We need to do better, folks. We can't just say, I'm a bleeding heart liberal or Republican, because Democrats are good and Republicans are evil. That talk has got to end, because this is why we are in the committee. Folks, we've got to have kitchen table conversations with people we don't agree with. Because they're not here today. The only people that are here are the ones that agree with us against Monsanto. We have to work on the issue of unity. But you know what? We probably agree with people we disagree with more than we disagree with them. And it's those small things that have been used by politicians, by corporations, to divide us for that very purpose, so that they cannot stand here right here today. Folks, we've got to do better. Look around you. People like me are not here. That is a problem. People right over there in the north side and throughout the rest of Kalamazoo. People with different ethnic backgrounds, social economic backgrounds are not here right now. We've isolated ourselves. We've kept ourselves apart because we can't stand to be with people who don't agree with us. Folks, there is a problem right now. We need to have conversations with people. Have tough conversations. You know what? We need to get past being comfortable. We need to get past feeling safe about what we say. We need to get past that, because if we're not, people won't say anything. They'll just vote. They won't research. They'll just see who their candidate is aligned with and vote for that person. They'll say, that person is a Republican. And I don't agree with that person, but you know what? It's better than a Democrat. They'll say, I don't agree with that Democrat, but it's better than Trump. So this is where we are here today. We are divided and conquered. But you know what? Even the slaves won their freedom. So it's not over for us. We've got to band together and learn from the history of this nation to rise up from the bottom. I say again, to rise up from the bottom. To win this country back in favor of the people, not the corporations. Folks, today, you have got to start researching about your politicians. And I mean, don't vote for anyone you haven't done campaign finance research for. Because there are many politicians here in Kalamazoo that take PAC money from Monsanto. We have our city bought out by a Monsanto board member. Who is also a board member of Western Michigan University. Who is also a board member of our Southwest Michigan First, which was formerly our Chamber of Commerce, which we don't have anymore.
Oh, just a quick interjection. In that reference, it's actually Bill Johnson is the one who's on the chair of WMU and Southwest Michigan First. Bill Parfett is on the board of Monsanto. So two individuals. All these chairmanship boards are true. I think he misspoke. Again, Johnson's on the board of WMU, Southwest Michigan First, and Bill Parfait is on the former chair, former board member of Monsanto. Also, real quick, for those of you who tuned in earlier when I was talking about going out to the east side of the state to address that issue in regards to sexual assault, that was Oakland County, not Eaton County. I misspoke, so just wanted to make sure I corrected that. So let's continue with Kris's speech.
So we no longer have oversight of our money and the flow of our economic development in this town. We have little to no oversight of our educational institutions or our government that was bought out. So what do we have other than each other? We have to use what we have. So look around you. Look around you. These are your allies. Your next step should be multiplying. Your next step should be reaching those people who are not here today. I want to make sure that I am clear. Your next step should be reaching people who don't look like you, sound like you, talk like you, and are definitely not where you're from. Because if you do not get out of your comfort zone, the only people that will remain here are the ones you are comfortable with. Are you guys listening to me?
Yes. As an example, I met Kris by hearing about him, and I saw him at KUCC, and I stepped on my little white girl box, and I said hi. And I asked him about his politics, and then I joined his campaign.
Right on. Right on. And she is someone who's really raised her voice. I really noticed the fire within her. When we spoke against the Kalamazoo Commission purchasing fluoride for water. There are many instances in which I've seen our local politicians, especially Democrats, because we have got to stop thinking about partisan politics as righteous and wrong. Both of them are getting paid large amounts of dollars that neither you or I can afford. And they're coming from somewhere. Absolutely. Some of them are even elected officials in this town. Democrats, lobbyists who are now city commissioners and representatives. We have got to do better, folks, and not just say, I like that politician because he complimented my socks Saturday. I like him. He's a good guy. We've got to say, and stop saying, I like that politician because he wore a blue tie, and blue represents the political values that I have. But look, this is politics, folks. They use these things as a litmus test for us, either our values or our issues. And we know nothing of the promises that they have made behind closed doors. But you know what? You can find that out in their campaign finance reports, because money doesn't lie. And money can be traced. Yeah. Okay, folks? And if you have it, I'm telling you, it is as easy as campaign finance report, politician, on Google, and you will find out exactly what you need to know. When I introduced Bernie Sanders to Kalamazoo, how long ago was that, a year ago? There was no way that I was endorsing Bernie Sanders without looking at his campaign finance reports. There was no way. And I had almost given up on this American political system. I'm telling you, I was not going to vote for anyone. And looking at Bernie Sanders, his issues, his values, his history, and being alone, holding the issues, holding to his values, his integrity. Over 30 years. That got me interested. So I looked at his campaign finances, because I know that. And sure enough, clean as a whistle. Clean as a whistle. Absolutely. Absolutely. So folks, arm yourselves. And more than that, arm your friends, your family, your neighbors. I'm telling you, go out and knock on your neighbor's door and build a connection with them. When I started work here in Kalamazoo as a community organizer, there were so many people here who had lived next to their neighbors for over 10 years and had never met them. We are divided, thus we are conquered. So let's work on unity, folks. Let's work on having conversations with the homeless people who come out and stay in Bronson Park because the mission closes them out in the middle of the day. Let's go out and cross those railroad tracks and meet the African American community of the north side that people from Port State don't go to. And from the surrounding areas. Let's go over to the Burdick region and meet the thriving Hispanic community. Let's meet those individuals and those families and see what they're doing. Talk with them. Eat with them. Let's go to the Westnedge Hill neighborhood and knock on some individuals' doors that may not feel comfortable with us. Because you know what? We don't do that work, it's not going to get done. And you guys right here are committed enough, are passionate enough, and care enough to be here. You can go out there. You can go out there and do that work. So folks, I implore you. I implore each and every single one of you, because I am not a politician. I don't care to be the most respected or politically liked person in a town or city. The only reason I would even take on a political campaign is because the politicians are not doing their jobs. So folks, I'm telling you, you are the answer. You have power. You can do this, folks. Now go out and meet your neighbors. Go out and meet your residents. Go out and meet the folks you regularly meet and bring them here. Bring them to places like this. And let's get rid of Monsanto.
That was Kris Mbah speaking at the March Against Monsanto, just back on May 20th. And you know what? I really wanted to play that message because, you know, that's been like the Achilles heel of a lot of the activism I've seen around here in town. It's not nearly intersectional enough. And you know, I will you know, be frank, like I'm not somehow above that. Have I been knocking on doors in the north side, in my old neighborhood in the south side? No, I haven't. And what's even worse is that I'm the kind of person who would be comfortable doing that, but what is it? I'm putting my energy in other places. I'm wiped out at the end of the day. I'm not doing the kind of work that, frankly, I should be doing. And if you are comfortable going, you know, in a certain neighborhood that other, you know, white people might not be comfortable with, then yeah, that's my responsibility. That's your responsibility. You got to help build those bridges. So otherwise, you know, like I've said before, this whole revolution, it's like Voltron. We all got to form up. You know, one arm is Black Lives Matter. Like, you know, one arm is you know, climate change. One arm is you know, the immigration movement. One leg is you know, universal health care. You know, so you know that we got to form up. Otherwise, we're all gonna get smushed by the monster that is corporatism and neoliberalism and their current figureheads, the big orange Goomba Donald Trump. So, you know, build those bridges, people, myself included. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. Want to thank y'all for tuning in. This is a Hoodrat Strategist radio program. Only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
apparent, but hunger is a rather prominent issue amongst the student body of Western. The Invisible Need Project is a multifaceted initiative that's aimed to help struggling students. Every 2 weeks, generous people donate their food to the pantry located in the Fawn Student Service buildings or other drop-off locations. All you need to do is grab a reusable bag and grab whatever food you need to help sustain yourself. If anyone's unsure when their next meal will be, or if you have a little extra food you'd be willing to donate, the food pantry is your place. If you're looking to help donate, become a volunteer, or just learn more, call 269-387-4742 or email dosa-inp@wmich.edu for details.
Support for Wider is brought to you by the Vintage Electronics Expo. Coming to Kalamazoo on July 14th and 15th at the Kalamazoo Expo Center, the Vintage Electronics Expo features vintage electronics items including radios, audio equipment, gaming, computer, and other related items. You can find more information at www.thevee.org. That's www.thevee.org.
Is proud to be supported by...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a brief musical interlude. The Hoodrat Strategist needs to drop some strategies in the little boys' room. We're going to please enjoy the music. When we get back, we will dig in some more to the local political landscape. I'll be talking about Capitol Day, which happened in Lansing back on the 25th? Oh wait, hold on. I gotta let me look at my calendar. When was that? That was. Oh yeah, that was the 23rd. Sorry. So yeah, we'll be talking about Capitol Day and the issues that we raised there, including the school-to-prison pipeline and air pollution out on the east side of the state in the 48217 area code. So keep your dial locked. We'll be talking about some very important issues coming up in just a few moments. Enjoy the brief musical interlude.
supposed to.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo. So, want to talk a little bit about Capitol Day up in Lansing. This was last Tuesday, May 23rd. And this was with an advocacy group called Michigan United. They're basically, they organize around the state to bring about legislative change and put pressure on political institutions to follow a people's agenda. So I'm going to read from, this is an article they posted on the 25th. I was there myself, and I'll do a little bit of commentary, but this kind of boils down to, like, you know, what they were there for and kind of the intent and goals behind it. So, Capitol Day 2017 features grassroots protests around Lansing. That's the name of the article. Senate Majority Leader Arlene Meekoff found his office filled with protesters opposed to his plan to take away teachers' pensions in Michigan. And that was one of the big issues we were fighting against. Essentially, you know, it weakens an already, you know, at risk and poorly underfunded school system that we have in many areas in Michigan, particularly those areas that are economically disadvantaged, such as like the Detroit metro area, places like Flint and Benton Harbor. So, continuing, representatives of Michigan United say the move would not only deter good teachers from coming to the state, but students would also suffer a shortage of professionals able to deal with childhood behavioral issues and an increase in criminalization of it. Baja Miller, who, by the way, did an awesome speech in the hallway there, I was very proud of the dude, credits quality teachers for pushing him to succeed. I came to a point in my life where I had to choose between success and failure, said Miller. My teachers were there to make sure I had made the right choice at a time when I couldn't see the path myself. Teachers have an important influence over children of single-family homes, says Arthur Howard, who graduated from 9th grade to juvenile detention to adult prison by the age of 16. They're not just educators, said Howard. They are character makers. And want to play a speech from one of my compatriots on that day. She went up to speak to the aspect of it regarding the school to prison pipeline. This is Magic. Some of you might know her from The Touch. She also tries to speak out on local issues on air as much as she can. This is her speaking out at the rally earlier that day, Michigan United, talking about school to prison pipeline.
This is why I am a school to prison pipeline. And
is my son. He's old now, but starting off in kindergarten. Now, my child is not a perfect child, who the child is, but some of the things that he was doing to get in trouble wasn't warranted for them to call me every hour, every couple hours when I'm at work, risking me losing my job or taking time off to come deal with my child with some simple things that should have been happening at school. So, and that ain't right. That's not right. So, as a single mom trying to raise my children, I started. I didn't know what it was, but my son was constantly school to take a half right, and he ended up graduating. But listening to other parents have similar issues that I had in the community, I was like, something's going on here. So over the years, so recently I was able to hook up with Michigan United.
Yeah!
Together, we formed a group called where we advocate for parental rights and our youth in Kalamazoo. So one of the things that we're advocating for is one of the things that I'm pissed about is that, I don't know if you guys have been listening to in the news, but they're trying to cut special education funding. Now, if you have a child that's in school that's doing any kind of IEP, any kind of services, that's what hurts your child. So this is not a black and white issue. This has to do with our children getting the correct services that we need. So this is not an issue that's just happening in Kalamazoo. I'm sure everybody in this room, in your community, you can have someone that's in your family or even yourself that has a story where you know a child has been wrongfully suspended for no reason, has been kicked out of school, and not got the services that they needed or have been asked to lead the district if we're not doing what it is that you feel that we should be doing. So I'm here today to ask you, are you with me? Are you ready to take action against the injustices that are going against our kids? Now, I'm sure they treat it like students and not criminals. When we go to our politicians today, that we demand that they keep intact the resources that we have for special education for our children so that we do not continue to send our children down this empty school-to-prison pipeline where there is nothing left of our community. They are dismantling our community with the school-to-prison pipeline. So I'm begging you, with your energy, to take that and demand this from your politicians, that they keep these resources for our children, because without our children, our communities are lost, and they're going to be lost in the sea of criminalization. So I thank you, I applaud your energy, thank you so much for being in this space, and we demand the transparency. I want to say, yes, we can! Yes, we can! Yes, we can!
Well, yeah, that was Magic, kind of speaking out about her own experiences and some of the stuff going on in the state budget. It's not good. Trying to, you know, if you want to look into that further, there has been some attempts to cut out special education, not entirely, but just like, you know, certainly it's been targeted for budget cuts. And how long do we have to witness the disaster of these austerity measures before something clicks and gets through? Anyway, so they were there to talk about like protecting teachers' pensions. Also, another very important reason that we were there today, that day, and I'll read from the article again. The crowd of hundreds moved on to the nearby officers of the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, where they held a rally outside accusing the watchdog of giving Marathon Petroleum permission to spew toxic pollution into their neighborhood near the refinery in southwest Detroit. And I've actually got a video from that rally, and this is hold on just a sec. This is speaking out about what is going on in the 48217 area code.
autoimmune illness and people have cancer. I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That is related to oil refinery. It is throughout my community. Sarcoidosis. Name any autoimmune illness, and people have it in my generation who grew up over there and who still live that refinery. Thanks to these people back here, this is wicked. It's racist. Did you not know that when you find these polluting communities like I live in, 69% of the time, black people, that's who live there. So it's racism all day coming to go. I'm going to close this with one thing, because I don't do this very often, because it's hard for me to do this. I was at a rally last time in Minnesota and did it. But sometimes, I can stand here and tell you how sick I was, but I'm going to show you how sick I am. Because every day when I wake up, I have to look at my arm and look at this port and look at this spot and this disfigurement, because this is my lifeline. If my kidney stops, I will have to go on a dialysis machine and use this to cleanse the blood in my body.
Right.
And every time you see somebody on dialysis, remember that. They are hooked up to a machine that has to have something that looks like this. And we are sick and tired of them making us sick and tired. Right? So today, we're about to stomp this puppy right here. And then after we stomp it, we wrote a letter with our demands, demanding they start acting like a department that's supposed to represent not only our health, but Flint water. All of the people in Michigan, all of you, it's supposed to represent all of you. And this has got to end, this racism. And Marathon, you need to buy our homes now.
So give a little bit of context to that when she's talking about buying out the homes. So in that area code, a lot of the wealthier families, whiter families as well, the Marathon offered to buy their homes and give them market value for it. Poor communities of color, not so much. And to kind of give you guys and gals and all you gender non-binary folks out there a little bit more kind of information, this is an article from 2014 from Al Jazeera America, where they basically went in and interviewed residents of the 48217 area code about this specific subject. And you can get a little bit more context, too, about what exactly is going on there. So, this is Life in Michigan's Dirtiest Zip Code by Renee Lewis, which published March 3rd, 2014. So, she goes on to say, smokestacks rise ominously behind the houses, and a strong odor permeates the area and irritates the throat. Residents say emissions from a tar sands refinery run by the Ohio-based Marathon Petroleum Corporation blow straight toward them most of the time. Lifelong Boynton resident Denise Taylor has a clear view of the refinery's flare from her bathroom window. We have watched them build a city over there. It used to be just a spot, she said, referring to Marathon's recent expansions, which the company says are necessary to cope with the increasing volume of tar sands from Canada's Alberta province. Residents' property values have tanked as industry has expanded around Boynton, with many of the homes estimated by retailers at $16,000 or less. That makes it difficult for people to leave even if they feel their health and safety are threatened. Keep building, but consider the people here, Taylor said. We're getting sick because of the pollution. Taylor said that although the area's air quality was never great, it got worse after Marathon switched from refining conventional oil to more tar sands oil, considered among the dirtiest fuel sources. Raw tar sands oil is mixed with chemicals to allow the substance to move through pipelines. The resulting mixture is referred to as dilbit, or diluted bitumen. Companies don't usually divulge exactly what is in the diluting agents they use, kind of similar to fracking. But most formulas contain volatile hydrocarbons like benzene, a known carcinogen. Neither Canada nor the United States has adopted regulations for the relatively new unconventional oil or done long-term health impact studies on the chemicals mixed in it. Residents say they believe the refinery's emissions are behind the unusually high rates of cancer and other illnesses in the neighborhood because it is the closest polluter. We want out of here. I want a permanent evacuation. I lost my mother from cancer, my dad from cancer, my brother from cancer, and my sister from cancer, Taylor said. According to Michigan Department of Public Health, consistently elevated levels of cancer and mortality rates from cancer were recorded in Boynton's zip code 48217, reported as the most polluted in Michigan. And I will continue. There's some other important aspects of this article I want to point out. But we're going to take a quick little break. You're listening to the Hoodrat Strategist radio program only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution.
Wider FM is proud to be supported by the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. The Kalamazoo Community Foundation is a non-profit organization that takes donations, invests them, and uses the money to fund programs for the betterment of the Kalamazoo community. If you are interested in donation or looking for more info, you can go to kalfound.org.
It's time for our weekly RSO Spotlight here on WIDR Kalamazoo.
Hi, I'm Jose Alexis Mejia.
And I'm Cesar Ortiz.
And we're the brothers of Sigma Lambda Beta International Fraternity Incorporated. We were founded here at Western Michigan University, April 3rd, 1988.
Our four pillars are brotherhood, scholarship, community service, and cultural awareness. Our mission statement is to nurture and further a dynamic, value-based environment which utilizes our historically Latino-based fraternity as a catalyst to better serve the needs and wants of all people.
And we strive for higher education. So if you want to contact us at wmubetas@gmail.com and Facebook and Instagram, WMUbetas. Thank you.
This has been our weekly RSO Spotlight here on WIDR Kalamazoo. For more Spotlight coverage, head to Western Herald or YBot Connects on Twitter. To find more information on how to spotlight your RSO, head to WIDRFM.org.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. If you're just joining us, I'm going to continue to speak out about the sacrifice zone in the 48217 area code. Now, if you're not hip to that lingo, a sacrifice zone is known as an area that corporations use as, like, basically an area that they feel they can pollute more easily, either because The area is economically disaffected, disenfranchised, poor, or, essentially that they can get away with it. And in this instance, we're talking about Marathon Petroleum refining tar sands oil, and the fumes and air pollution causing increased cancer rates in the city of Boynton in the 48217 area code. That's Michigan's most polluted area code. And we're talking about how they caused really highly increased cancer rates. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the economic aspect of it. And I thought this is really important to follow up too, because why? Some may ask, why did they let this happen? And this kind of explains it. The oil also brings much-needed tax revenue and jobs to the economically troubled state. Niles, a town in southwest Michigan, was the temporary headquarters for Alberta-based Enbridge Energy's contractor Precision Pipeline. That sounds familiar to anybody around here. Company moved to temporary operation there last year as it began a project to replace an older pipeline. Because the older pipeline burst and poisoned our Kalamazoo River. Enbridge brought in more than 1,000 people to Niles, a boon for the local economy. Four Flags Area Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Tiana Weller told Al Jazeera. She had good things to say about Enbridge workers who put more than $1 million into Niles before the company left town. But concerned residents aren't arguing against oil. They are calling for stricter regulations for an industry they say acts with impunity. In February 2011, after neighbors down the street from Taylor complained of strong odors coming from the basement sewer drains, the Environmental Protection Agency carried out tests. The results showed that a cocktail of about 20 chemicals, including benzene, had seeped into the home's basements. The EPA says being around petroleum compounds like benzene for a short period can cause irritated eyes, coughing, a sore throat, and shortness of breath. Being around low levels of benzene for a longer time can harm a person's ability to make blood cells and fight infections, and breathing high benzene levels over time can lead to cancer. A letter from the EPA to Boynton residents told them the neighborhood sewer system, which transports industrial wastewater from Marathon's refinery, contains low levels of benzene. Marathon bought out the block of homes where EPA tests showed out a presence of toxic chemicals. The company also bought out residents of a nearby neighborhood called Oakwood Heights, paying them above market prices for their homes before raising them in order to create a buffer zone. But homes in Boynton are just as close to the refinery, and Lockridge has collected more than 200 signatures from residents calling for buyouts. But Al Jazeera was told that Marathon is not considering any additional buyout programs. Marathon gets its oil via pipelines that carry dilbit through rural Michigan. Like Taylor and Lockridge, residents in the pipeline's paths said they feel the industry has ignored their health concerns. And, that loops in, we talk about the difference between rural and urban issues sometimes on the show, and how those things get painted. And particularly when we were leading up to our interview with the March Against Monsanto, we talked about how those are interlinked, and that's the perfect example. People who are affected in this neighborhood also experience these things in rural areas where these pipelines are put in areas that are out of the way, usually in areas that are poor and rural and white, and they end up being refined in areas that are poor and urban and black. So everybody's getting it. Everybody's getting it who are poor, and occasionally, companies like Enbridge will waive a few jobs, temporary jobs in front of people's faces in cities like Niles at the expense of the rest of the state and Niles itself too. They weren't unaffected by that oil spill back in 2013. So, you know, what it really boils down to is, you know, this company feels impunity to use a poor community of color as a toilet, as a waste dump, essentially. I mean, it's air pollution, so that's not a literal metaphor, but you know, this happens all over the state. This happened in our backyard with the Enbridge pipeline burst. It's happening on the east side to these folks in Boynton. You know, water pollution happened in Flint because of a monetary austerity decision. It'd be cheaper to switch over to lead-polluted water. So, you know, this struggle is happening all over the state, all over the country, as a matter of fact. And, you know, just be aware of what's going on in our state, in our neighborhoods, in our neck of the woods. So we're going to have to build solidarity in order to face these common struggles that are going to be coming up ahead and that are happening right as we speak at this moment. So let's go ahead and move on to a new topic, and let's pivot towards some more national fare. This is an article from The Intercept, which I found very interesting, because it talks about my old camp days. Yeah, you know, which camp am I talking about? Like, no, not like, you know, summer camp, winter camp in North Dakota, where you eat tear gas for dinner and rubber bullets for lunch, breakfast. Meant that to come out as a little bit more, you know, tough. You eat tear gas for dinner and rubber bullets for breakfast. This article here, published by The Intercept on May 27th, reveals some very interesting details about those militarized police that we were facing off with on nights like, you know, the 1806 on the bridge, and also explain some of their behavior that I remember from Bismarck. It really kind of brought some clarity to some questions that were lingering in my head and that I reported on when I returned home. There's a show from a couple months ago where I spend most of the time, about an hour and a half, talking about my experiences at Standing Rock. So, again, you can find that on YouTube at the Hoodrat Strategist Facebook or YouTube page. But this really illuminated like what was going on the other side of that bridge with all those Judge Dredd-looking robo-cops with their military equipment. Title of this article is Leaked Documents Reveal Counterterrorism Tactics Used at Standing Rock to Defeat Pipeline Insurgencies. Wow, I was an insurgent. Oh boy, what a title. Goodness. So I'll read from the article. This is from, it's quite extensive, so I'm just going to read kind of bits and pieces from it. This is by Aline Brown, Will Parrish, and Alice Sperry. A shadowy international mercenary and security firm known as Tiger Swan targeted the movement opposed to the Dakota Access Pipeline with military-style counterterrorism measures, collaborating closely with police in at least 5 states, according to internal documents obtained by The Intercept. The documents provide the first detailed picture of how Tiger Swan, which originated as a U.S. military and State Department contractor helping to execute the global war on terror, worked at the behest of its clients Energy Transfer Partners, the company building the Dakota Access Pipeline, to respond to the indigenous-led movement that sought to stop the project. Internal Tiger Swan Communications described the movement as an ideologically driven insurgency with a strong religious component and compared the anti-pipeline water protectors to jihadist fighters. Yeah. Oh my good. So the context of this is like this group that is put in places like Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria is sent to North Dakota and basically looks at people like me who were there to peacefully protest as violent insurgents. And I mean, I'll keep going. Like, some of the language they use to describe us it would be comical if it wasn't so alarming about the degree to which, most of the people there were American citizens, and we're being described as like this fundamentalist terrorist group because we don't want water to get polluted with oil. And it really adds a dimension of social psychology to it because, a lot of times at camp we would talk about the amorality of these police and, why are they, treating the protesters like this. I even went on to say I was being interviewed for a documentary about Standing Rock by my friend Rod Weber, and I described it, it was different than just about any protest I had ever participated in because, there was a sense that like they had declared war on us. It wasn't just about, crowd control or stamping down. And I had my own theories about why they cracked down so hard on us. I thought it had a lot to do with, basically, North Dakota cops being given all of this this equipment and, being given like access to like counter-terrorist strategies. They would basically be acting out in a way that you wouldn't see in big cities like Philadelphia and New York because they're so new at it. But this really gives a bit more of an alarming context to it. It's not just that local police felt emboldened to act a little bit more repressive than usual. It's that there were these mercenary groups hired to literally treat us like terrorists, treat us like insurgents in these imperialist wars that we're fighting all over the world. After reading this article, it really puts a lot of it in perspective for me. So, think about it. Like, they're all fighting in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. And this is how they view the insurgents there. It really helps you build an empathic connection because, for me and the other folks who were at Standing Rock, they could speak to, especially like Acheti Sakowin. That camp, it was like a small town. It was a community. We would have dramatic days, fiery days like the 1806 bridge. But there would also be days where we were just building. People were going about errands, chores. Jokes would be told at the sacred fire. Put a little personal touch on it. There was this one fellow who was kind of like the go-to announcer at the sacred fire, and he was hilarious. He'd always be he had this very dry wit. Here's a good example. He's making announcements, and he's like, so our friend Joe, he just got a yurt. Joe does not know how to build a yurt. Perhaps Joe should give me his yurt, since I know how to build one. Joe, give me your yurt. I will build it, and then sell it. And then we can use it to buy some more windmills. And this kind of repeating joke, he kept talking about windmills and green energy. Windmills, 69 windmills for that yurt that Joe does not know how to build. And So, it was a community. Like this is people who like when on off nights when we weren't actively on the front lines, end of a long day where we'd be chopping wood or helping build up the camp. We would plug in the generator and this is a great irony. I need to write a poem about this or something. Watching Avatar at Standing Rock. We were basically trying. I mean, I could probably write a paper about that. Weird connections. Anytime you see the military, we'd see the military come in the movie. It's like, oh look, it's Staple Security. Apparently, it was not that far off. So, anyway, I want to read a little bit more from this article. I kind of went off on my own personal tangent there, but it continues. One report dated February 27th, 2017, states that since the movement generally followed the jihadist insurgency model while active, we can expect the individuals who fought for and supported it to follow a post-insurgency model after its collapse. Drawing comparisons with post-Soviet Afghanistan, the report warns, while we can expect to see the continued spread of the anti-DAPL diaspora, aggressive intelligence preparation of the battlefield and active coordination between intelligence and security elements are now a proven method of defeating pipeline insurgencies. More than 100 internal documents leaked to The Intercept by a Tiger Swan contractor, as well as a set of over 1,000 documents obtained via public record requests, reveal that Tiger Swan spearheaded a multifaceted private security operation characterized by sweeping and invasive surveillance of protesters. There would be the choppers flying overhead every night, every day. And there was definitely a good number of infiltrators and agitators. Especially in this context, the fact that they looked at us like violent terrorists, that makes a lot more sense. We would have problem people come into camp every once in a while trying to rile people up. And not to confuse that with, the Red Warrior camp, who was a bit more militant, but still, talking about non-violent methods. We're talking about going to war with the police. But occasionally we'd have people come in who would talk like that, and we'd find really weird Facebook profiles that were basically dummy profiles. People with dubious backgrounds. It's you could tell they're getting paid apparently by Tiger Swan to try to get people in the camp riled up. I don't know, I guess they were getting bored. They're like, oh, we need to make these people act more like terrorists instead of just, people who are really concerned about our environment and respecting native people's land. So it goes on to kind of talk about the broader implications of this. As policing continues to be militarized and state legislators around the country pass laws criminalizing protests, the fact that a private security firm retained by a Fortune 500 oil and gas company coordinated its efforts with local, state, and federal law enforcement to undermine the protest movement has profoundly anti-democratic implications. The leaked materials not only highlight Tiger Swan's militaristic approach to protecting its clients' interests, but also the company's profit-driven imperative to portray the non-violent water protector movement as unpredictable and menacing enough to justify the continued need for extraordinary security measures. And Energy Transfer Partners has continued to retain Tiger Swan long after the most of the anti-pipeline campers left North Dakota, and most recent Tiger Swan reports emphasize the threat of growing activism around other pipeline projects across the country, which is happening, by the way, as movement popping up. Anti-pipeline movements popping up across the country, places like Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida. Which really makes me wonder, in the wake of this article, are Tiger Swan and groups like it targeting those pipeline camps the same way that they did in Standing Rock? Treating us like we're a terrorist group? Probably. Especially in Trump's America, it's probably even more brazen. The leaked documents include situation reports prepared by Tiger Swan operatives in North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, Illinois, and Texas between September 2016 and May 2017. They offer a daily snapshot of the security firm's activities, including detailed summaries of the previous day's surveillance, targeting pipeline opponents, intelligence on upcoming protests, and information harvested from social media. The documents also provide extensive evidence of aerial surveillance and radio eavesdropping, as well as infiltration of camps and activist circles. Tiger Swan did not respond to requests for comment. Energy Transfer partners declined to comment as well. Well, yeah, I would imagine. Going on, Tiger Swan's internal reports and the intelligence briefing shared with law enforcement named dozens of DAPL opponents. Some of those named are well-known activists, while others have minimal public affiliation with the water protector movement. The report's authors often comment on camp dynamics, including protester morale and infighting, and speculate about violent or illegal actions specific individuals might take and weapons they might carry. The documents reveal the existence of a persons of interest list, as well as other... I wonder if I'm on that list. I'm just curious. But, if I could see these documents, I'll have to see if... I don't know if The Intercept has actually released the raw documents. I'll look that up. I'm just curious if I'm on this thing. I mean, I played it pretty quiet at camp. I wasn't really raising a ruckus. And in fact, as a matter of fact, I was pretty quiet. I washed dishes, I chopped wood, I stood at police lines and risked getting beat up by cops, but for the most part, I wasn't like leading anything. As frankly, like most, it was a native-led movement, so, if you're a white person, you really need to kind of stay in the back and follow rather than lead. But yeah, maybe I'm a person of interest. The subject has been found washing dishes quite vigorously in the Michigan host tent. Anyway, subject Andrew Argo was seen in the Michigan host tent, rapping to his tent mates some very anti-establishment rhymes. All right. Cool. So it goes on to talk about the partnership between the public and private entities. In the aftermath of the incidents where they were recorded using attack dogs on protesters, beanbag rounds, LRAD sound devices, and particularly that famous incident that Democracy Now! Captured with dogs. Energy Transfer's partners hired Tiger Swan, a company with a deep background in counterterrorism operations, to oversee the work of the other security companies contracted to protect the pipeline. Other security firms working along the pipeline, including Silverton, Russell Group of Texas, Tincode LLC, Permar, SRC, On Point, and Layton. Tiger Swan was created by retired Army Colonel James Reese during the height of the war in Iraq. Reese, a former commander in the elite Army Special Operations Unit known as Delta, entered into the exploding private security intelligence industry, hoping to compete with Blackwater, then the most successful of the private military companies supporting U.S. war efforts in the Middle East and Afghanistan. Tiger Swan has an estimated 350 employees and maintains offices in Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, India, Latin America, and Japan. Records from the North Dakota Private Investigation and Security Board show that Tiger Swan has operated without a license in North Dakota for the entirety of the pipeline security operation. Claiming in communication with the board, we are doing management and IT consulting for our client and doing no security work, which was a lie. In September, the licensing board learned about the company's position as a Dakota Access contractor and wrote a letter to the North Carolina headquarters requesting it submit a license application. Tiger Swan then did so, but the board denied the application on December 19th. After James Reese wrote a letter objecting to the decision, Security Board's executive director responded on January 10th that one reason for the denial concerns your failure to respond to the board's request for information as to Tiger Swan's and James Reese's activities within the state of North Dakota. The leaked situation report indicates that during the company's first weeks working on the pipeline, Tiger Swan operatives met with law enforcement in Iowa and North Dakota, including Sheriff Dean Danzison of Mercer County, North Dakota, who agreed to sharing information with a counterterrorism agency that did not have a license to operate there. I added that in myself, just to you understand how bogus that is. Not that I'm really that surprised, but that's still horrible and worthy of condemnation. By September 13th, documents indicate Tiger Swan had placed a liaison inside the Law Enforcement Joint Operation Command in North Dakota. The fusion of public and private intelligence operations targeting water protectors was underway. I'm going to take a quick break. If you want to read more from that article, again, that's on The Intercept. Leaked documents reveal counterterrorism tactics used at Standing Rock to defeat pipeline insurgencies. And that's alarming. And it's a really terrible precedent for future activist struggles. Even if you're there to protest peacefully, apparently our government, our law enforcement agencies have no compunction against viewing us as terrorist insurgents or hiring companies that do. So keep your dial locked. You are listening to 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, Hoodrat Strategist radio program, your only source for political revolution, only here on WIDR.
You ask her, me talk, and listen.
Is lack of summer green bringing you down? Finch Greenhouse, located in Wood Hall on WMU's campus, might be the perfect thing for you. With hours Monday through Thursday from 9:30 to 3:30 p.m. and on Friday until 1:30, this space will bring you to a time before urbanization. Located inside Wood Hall, the space is open to the public with an extensive and varied plant collection with a wide range of diversity from orchids to succulents and many more. A friendly reminder from WIDR to enjoy life.
This is an open slot in the WIDR clock and could be filled with an underwriting announcement for your local Kalamazoo business. For more information, please visit widrfm.org and head to the support page.
WIDR FM is proud to be supported by the invest them and uses the money.
Be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And when we get back, we will be talking a little bit about education. Betsy DeVos and what the Democrats didn't do to stop it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. This is the Hoodrat Strategist radio program, only on 89.1 WIDR Kalamazoo, your only source for political revolution. Oop, out. Hold on. Hold on just a sec, folks. All right. Oop. Okay. I'm going to turn the music up. Got some technical difficulties. All right. Okay, I fixed it. So, I want to read a little bit from, this is an article from New Republic. It's called "Don't Like Betsy DeVos, Blame the Democrats." Oh boy. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry if you're blue, no matter who. You might get a little upset with some of the commentary here. But no, this is actually something I wanted to speak to for a while, and particularly with Betsy DeVos rightfully coming under fire for craven defense of the education budget. I want to point out some of the ways that the Democrats have not been a good opposition party on this issue, and for the most part, they've really just gone along with a lot of the questionable privatization that now is coming under such scrutiny. This is by Diane Ravitch. And so she goes to say, of all the corrupt, unqualified, and extremist characters Donald Trump has tapped to lead in his administration, none has generated the tsunami of liberal outrage whipped up by the Education Secretary Betsy DeVos. And with all due respect to Jeff Sessions, there's a good reason for the backlash. The billionaire Amway heiress from Michigan, who long ago made school choice her passion project, is the first education secretary in history to be hostile to the very idea of public education. So she goes on to say, listening to their cries of outrage, one might imagine that Democrats were America's undisputed champions of public education. But the resistance to DeVos obscured an inconvenient truth. Democrats have been promoting a conservative school reform agenda for the past 3 decades. Some did it because they fell for the myths of accountability and choice as magic bullets for better schools. Some did it because choice has centrist appeal. Others sold out public schools for campaign contributions from the charter industry and its Wall Street patrons. Whatever the motivations, the upshot is clear. The Democratic Party has lost its way on public education. In a very real sense, Democrats paved the way for DeVos and her plans to privatize the school system. 30 years ago, there was a sharp difference between Republicans and Democrats on education. Republicans wanted choice, testing, and accountability. Democrats wanted equitable funding for needy districts and highly trained teachers. But in 1989, with Democrats reeling from 3 straight presidential losses, the lines began to blur. That year, when President George Bush Sr. convened an education summit of the nation's governor, there was a little-known Arkansas Democrat named Bill Clinton who drafted a bipartisan set of national goals for the year 2000. The ambitious benchmarks would be realized by creating, for the first time, national achievement standards and tests. Clinton ran on the issue, defeated Bush, and passed Goals 2000, which provided grants to states that implemented their own achievement metrics. Democrats had dipped a toe in school reform, but for long they were completely immersed. After George W. made the Texas miracle of improved schools by a launching pad for the presidency, many Democrats swallowed his bogus claim that testing students every year had produced amazing results. In 2001, Ted Kennedy, the state Senate's liberal lion, teamed with Bush to pass No Child Left Behind. For the first time, the government is mandating not only accountability, code for punishing teachers in schools who fall short, but also choice, code for handing low-performing public schools over to charter operators. When Obama took office in 2009, educators hoped he would return the party to its public school roots. By then, even Bill Clinton was calling No Child Left Behind a train wreck. Instead, Obama and Education Secretary Arne Duncan doubled down on testing, accountability, and choice. Their race to the top program was in essence No Child Left Behind 2, and invited states to compete for $5 billion in funds by holding teachers accountable for test scores, adopting national standards, opening more charter schools, and closing low-scoring public schools. The Obama years saw an epidemic of new charters, testing, school closings, and teacher firings. In Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emanuel closed 50 public schools in one day. Democratic charter advocates, whose ranks include the outraged Cory Booker and Bennett, have increasingly imported school choice into the party's rhetoric. And I'd like to add Cory Booker, who has been in hot water on my show before for his choices regarding pharmaceutical industry, actually spoke at charter school conferences before. There's actually a classic speech where he talks about how school choice has been a great thing for education. His fake outrage at Betsy DeVos is probably the most grating, because like Cory Booker has been a cheerleader for the privatization of public schools. The very same thing that, he is decrying Betsy DeVos of right now. So Booker likes to equate choice with freedom, even though the entire idea of choice was created by white Southerners who were scrambling to defend segregated schools after Brown versus Board of Education. And this is actually a good example of how like dog whistle politics can kind of transform and transubstantiate itself inside of things like the Democratic Party. Something that the article doesn't mention but is kind of related to Bill Clinton's overall platform in the early 90s was essentially taking a lot of Republican dog whistle policies and putting like a neoliberal veneer over them. So he talks about getting tough on crime, but he appeals to black urbanites, saying like, "Oh, we're trying to fix your community," or Hillary Clinton's tone-deaf comment about super predators, which was a racial dog whistle, but also they made an effort to basically play it to the urban population itself, and also play it towards whites who would pick up on that racial dog whistle. And that's what school choice is about too. When Betsy DeVos went and said she didn't think it would it was unacceptable for charter schools to discriminate based on race, a lot of people were just overtly shocked by it, but and a lot of Democrats pounced on that. But at the same time, when people like Booker, who is an African American congressman, comes out and says like, "Oh yeah, schools, you should be able to have a choice of the kind of school you want to go to," that is implicitly condoning a type of school that will be able to restrict along lines that a public school cannot, which may include race, class, ideology. So, goes on to say, it's fitting that Trump and DeVos rely on the same language to tout their vision of reform. They're essentially taking Obama's formulas one step further, expanding choice to include vouchers, so parents can use public funding to pay for private and religious schools. Democrats are up in arms about the privatization scheme, as they should be. It's a disaster for public schools. But if they're serious about being the party that treats public education as a cornerstone of democracy, they need to do more than grandstand about the consequences they help bring about. They need to follow the money, their own campaign money, that is. As Democrats learned years ago, support for mandatory testing in charter schools opens fat wallets on Wall Street. Money guys love deregulation, testing, and big data, and union busting. In 2005, Obama served as the featured speaker at the inaugural gathering of Democrats for Education Reform, which bundles contributions to Democrats who back charter schools. Among its favorites have been those sharp DeVos critics George Miller, Michael Bennett, and Cory Booker, as I mentioned earlier. Conservative funders like the Walton Foundation also give generously to charter schools and liberal think tanks such as the Center for American Progress. The money had its intended effect. When Andrew Cuomo decided to run for governor of New York, he learned that the way to raise cash was to go through the hedge funders at Democrats for Education Reform. They backed him lavishly, and Cuomo repaid them by becoming a hero of the charter movement. Connecticut Governor Dan Malloy, often celebrated for his unvarnished liberalism, is another champion of the charter industry. Some of its biggest funders live in the state. California Governor Jerry Brown vetoed a bill to ban for-profit charters in the state and has resisted efforts to make charters more affordable or accountable. As mayor of Oakland, he opened 2 charter schools. There are plenty of reasons that Democrats should steer clear of the charter industry. Charter corporations have been repeatedly charged with fraud, nepotism, self-dealing, and conflicts of interest. Many charters make money on complex real estate deals. Worst of all are the cyber charters, mega corporations that offer virtual schools with high attrition, low test scores, and abysmal graduation rates. But it's more than a matter of sleeping with the enemy. School choice doesn't work, and evidence-based Democrats ought to acknowledge it. Charter schools are a failed experiment. Study after study has shown that they do not get better test scores than public schools unless they screen out English language learners and students with profound disabilities. It's well established that school choice increases segregation rather than giving low-income students better opportunities. And kids using vouchers actually lose ground in private schools. Support for charters is paving the way for a dual school system. One is allowed to choose the students it wants, and another that is required to accept all who enroll. This is what Democrats should be yelling about. And if there's ever a moment for them to reclaim their mantle as a party of public education, it's now. The misguided push for reform is currently being led not by Obama and Duncan, but by Trump and DeVos, giving Democrats an opening to shift gears on education, though they will lose some of that hedge fund money. But if 2016 taught Democrats anything, it's how unwise it was to allow the demolition of organized labor, including teachers' unions, once a great source of money and grassroots energy. The party needs strong teachers' unions and needs their enthusiasm. The agenda isn't complicated. Fight privatization of all kinds, insist on an evidence-based debate about charter schools and vouchers, abandon the obsession with testing, fight for equitable funding with public money flowing to the neediest schools, acknowledge the importance of well-educated professional teachers in every classroom. So, just kind of wrapping up my commentary on this article. So, again, we got to be very vigilant about, the Democratic Party playing hypocrites. If they want to have the institutional power of the left, they actually need to fight for our values. And Betsy DeVos, like many elements of Trump's administration, is just like the mask coming off of this whole years of privatization, push for privatization and pro-corporate policies that the Democrats have either been complicit or active in promoting. It's only when it comes out of the mouth of somebody as dismal and abhorrent as Betsy DeVos that, the people as a whole wake up to how abhorrent it is, but the Democrats are forced to take a strong stand against it. We got to make sure that it's not just lip service, though, because they're still raking in money from these interests that are pushing for DeVos's private schools. So if you're on the left and you care about education, or you're anywhere on the political spectrum and you base your decisions on hard evidence, then you got to acknowledge that this push towards charter schools and privatization is going to be very bad for us in the long run. And this is a rare opportunity where the people can really use their leverage against the Democrats and say, you got to stand up for public schools again. You can't keep following these conservative policies when it comes to education reform. You can't be an opposition party if you don't oppose. And if they don't oppose it, then they're basically just Republicans with a coexist bumper sticker. So that's about it for the show today. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Again, this is every Wednesday from 5 to 7, Hoodrat Strategist radio program. Look us up on YouTube. You can catch the episodes streaming there. I usually try to upload them evening after the show, latest usually by Friday night. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please, you can always email me, hoodratstrategist@gmail.com, and we also do have a Facebook page. I like to usually end my calls by talking about some of the activist stuff going on this weekend. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on. So, excuse me. On June 4th, Sunday at 2 o'clock, over in Troy, Michigan, there is going to be a healthcare protest against David Trott, talking about the problematic elements of the AHCA. And, excuse me, that's going to be Sunday at 2 p.m., 625 East Big Beaver Road, Troy, Michigan. On Tuesday, June 6th, there is going to be a talk with Dr. David Ansell. It's called The Death Gap, How Inequality Kills. I'll read a little bit from the event description. Physician, advocate, and author will connect racism and income inequality to health and well-being during a free public talk at 7 p.m. Tuesday, June 6th in downtown Kalamazoo. The talk will be given by Dr. David A. Ansell, Senior Vice President of Community Health Equity and Associate Provost for Clinical Affairs at the Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. Ansell will discuss the often unseen root causes of unequal life chances in the U.S. and advocate for sweeping changes in policy and practices to create a healthcare system and society that are more just, according to Tim Reddy, director of WMU's Lewis Walker Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnic Relations, which is co-sponsoring the event. So that is going to be June 6th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. at 300 Portage Street here in Kalamazoo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for tuning in. And I will see all y'all next week. Have a good one and keep on fighting for that revolution solution.